in the Digicon and Digilone. Apparently, I was muted. And I've still got an echo running through the whole room.
Can we maybe just ask everyone in the room just to mute all the PCs, and then we will only leave the one on the one there.
Okay. I'm now going to start. No, I'm not going to start again. Somebody's pointing this way. All right, I'm going to carry on. Thank you. That sounds much better. Good day, everybody, especially the citizens of the Western Cape with this update. Many of you have been feeling the brunt of this storm already. You know that we put out warnings on Friday already, level 4 and 6 for various parts of the province. Then, of course, that was increased yesterday. Yesterday, there was a Disaster Management and Joint Operations Command meeting that was followed at 5 o'clock by an update with members of the cabinet. We then did not want to make any calls. We put it to a meeting today. A further disaster management meeting took place today at 11 o'clock. A cabinet, an extended cabinet, including all of the districts and the district mayors, that took place at 12 o'clock. And here we are now just communicating with the citizens of the province on this current storm and the level 9 warning for tomorrow. That level 9 warning tomorrow, that warning is in primarily the Winelands district of the province and the Overberg region of the province. It is also in parts of the city and specifically the Helderberg basin. Now, the main decision as made today in the meeting earlier was that schools are going to be closed in those areas. I'll say again, schools will be closed in the Overberg region, in the Winelands district region, and in the Helderberg basin. That is the Somerset West part of the city of Cape Town. We do not ever want to really close schools, but we also need to make sure that we are erring on the side of caution. You will remember the last time a decision like this was taken was way back when we had those major fires across the Garden Route and those very high winds where we saw school roofs coming off. Today, we have already seen some schools lose their roofs. We've seen in Kayamandi some fires that go with these high winds. We've seen in Drakenstein some fires that are going with these high winds. We've seen from government installations, schools and human settlement installations, but also in the private sector space, we've also seen a number of fires over the last while. And the high winds of today, reaching up to 120 to 150 kilometers an hour, gusting at Cape Point, and about 80 kilometers an hour in the city of Cape Town. What is following is going to be rain. And the predictions are high rain levels, specifically over the Overberg. And when you add the two together, we know that that's where the risk comes in. I will say a little bit more about this, but we're going to get a presentation now from our South African Weather Service that will actually show you what the maps look like and why we are calling for some of these measures because of the high winds and the rain that is on its way. Also, from our disaster management team, we will have a short presentation, and then we will come back in and just give some final messaging. But with this, I'd just like to quickly hand over to Minister Bradell to introduce the disaster team. He is the minister responsible for our disaster management teams here in the province. Minister Bradell.
Well, Premier, thank you. Thank you from my side to all the personnel, the DG, the HOD, and every single person in this room made themselves available on very short notice to come and support us, to help us. And normally when we meet here, it's because there's some sort of a crisis. But Premier, we do have the system that we've developed over years. And our call is that we must just keep on trusting our system. And with that couple of words, I'm going to hand over to Colin Diner, the head of the Disaster Management Center in the province. Colin, over.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much, Premier. What we will do is I have a short presentation just on what our preparedness is. And then when I'm done with this presentation, we will ask weather services just to give us a little bit more clarity on exactly the areas and the impact that's going to happen. Next slide, please. So with every operation that we have, and this is within the Provincial Incident Command System, is we identify our strategic objectives. So the first objective today, although we've already had incidents, although we are still in a preparatory phase for the level 9 rain warning, public awareness is critical. The most important area that we cover is to protect human life. So that would always be our first priority. All our activities initially will be focused on the protection of human life. So that is rescue services, emergency medical services, and we work with a wide range of NGOs and other rescue organizations, which I'll mention a bit later. Protection of critical infrastructure and property so that we can support our operations. The coordination and the preparedness of response activities. So it's a system that has been tested over many years, whereby all our district disaster management centers get activated. We have various clusters within the provincial government. So like, for example, a humanitarian cluster, a economic cluster, which looks at business and tourism. We have a law enforcement cluster. And we have these various clusters that we then activate, and they carry out the specific support operations that need to happen. Of course, the humanitarian support, we work with a number of NGOs consistently at our side, working with our Department of Social Development to ensure that we provide humanitarian resources to the people who need it. From a preparedness perspective, as I said, the coordination of government and volunteer services, they give a bit of time. We're talking about National Serious Care Institute. We're talking about SARSA, who do a lot of off-road special rescue kind of work, wilderness search and rescue, volunteer wildfire. So all those groups are on standby. We've had them on standby since Friday. Then the stakeholder relationships, as I mentioned, bringing everybody in. We meet very often. So we had our first briefing. We got the early warning on Friday. We had when it was upgraded yesterday, we met again, briefed the cabinet and the premier yesterday, and today we will meet. We have met already, and we will tomorrow at 8 o'clock. We will do an assessment, and then we will decide on actions going forward. The continuous risk monitoring. I will speak about the incidents that have already taken place shortly. But we do still have a fire risk, although it's near the end of our fire season. The winds have happened. We haven't had a lot of rain in certain areas, so specifically in Drakenstein, in the city of Cape Town, Cape Winelands, we're having some major fires, which we're currently dealing with. We have to look at what kind of risks will be together with load shedding. You'll recall we had the incident in Central Karoo a couple of weeks back where we needed to provide humanitarian and assistance to the people that were affected by that incident. Was around 30,000 people. The impact on service delivery, of course, the public awareness, which is very important. Our standard operating procedures kick in for these kinds of incidents. We managed 2 major floods last year, so these are incidents that we prepare for when we come into this period. Our disaster management centers are on a 24/7 operational readiness, and all those procedures are in place. Next, please. So the current incidents that have been reported up to now is in the city of Cape Town. There's been damage to the Helderberg Hospital in Somerset West. No evacuation was required. Somerset Mall, there's been roof sheetings that have been blown off. People have been evacuated, and there are building inspectors on scene. There's been reports of roofs being blown off in informal settlements, trees that have been uprooted in the Somerset and Strand area. Japanese speakers being closed. And there have been various fires reported in Fish Hoek and in Clove Valley. Those fires are ongoing. City of Cape Town Fire Services are on those incidents. The Cape Winelands District Municipality in Witzenberg, there is Mitchell's Pass fire has happened, has been contained. In Stellenbosch, the Stellenbosch Mediclinic has been evacuated. 3 patients were moved to other hospitals. They were able to manage the movement of the other patients within the hospital system. We've had a fire in Kayamandi, an informal settlement fire. The problem there is that although that fire has been extinguished and brought under control, there is significant wind in that area. So a lot of the debris from that fire is blowing around. We've already had injury to people. So it's making the recovery operations efforts in that area very, very difficult. There was a fire in Papagaiberg, which is contained. the Simonsburg fire and then the Blauwklippen Manor House fire has also taken place in the Stellenbosch area. And in Drakenstein, the Huguenot Tunnel is closed in both directions. The Paul Hospital has reported minor damage. And then we do have a fairly large fire in Palm Mountain. We've actually diverted resources. We did what is called a code red. That means that your resources have all been used in that specific area. So the code red was called very early this morning at around 4 o'clock, between 4 and 5. We then sent resources from City of Cape Town, Drakenstein, the Cape Winelands district all responded to assist with that fire, and they are dealing with that at the moment. And then we have had damage to various schools. As was mentioned earlier by the Premier, there has been damage at this stage to various schools across the province, and there are assessments being done. Wind is at the moment a problem in terms of us getting through that. Next, please. So our risk reduction measures, we've spoken about the awareness. We have also asked the affected areas to cancel any major public events for tomorrow. Tomorrow is really the critical day. So we have asked for that to take place. Dam levels are being monitored. What we are looking at is specifically Bottreffier N2 that we have had challenges there in the previous floods we had last year, is to deal with that. The Premier mentioned the school closures, and that will be an ongoing monitoring process. The Department of Health and Wellness have also decided that they will do a containment of their mobile services in high-risk areas, considering that people have to travel on unsafe roads that become unsafe when we have a situation like we are possibly facing. We've done a lot of proactive estuary prevention measures in coastal areas so that we do not end up having large estuary flooding. Strategic traffic management, our traffic services have all their resources in place. They will be moving around. They've already done quite a bit of work on road closures. Then our humanitarian support cluster, as I've mentioned earlier, with our partners to be able to provide humanitarian support to people that have already been affected and that might possibly be affected going forward. And then, of course, our Joint Operations Centre, which is operational at the moment. Thank you, Premier. That is, I think if we can maybe just ask weather services to give their update. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you and good afternoon. I'm not sure if I'm audible enough.
Mr. Malala, thank you very much. You are, but your slides still need to come up.
Okay.
Yes, we got them. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Premier, and thanks, Colin, for the time that has been given to us. Yes, indeed, from the meetings that we had, we tried to look at the situation and provide the necessary advice. I won't waste much time. I will just try to take us through the current or the prevailing situation. As you can see, the satellite image that is showing what is happening now. But what I can say is that we can see the system is a cut-off flow system that is approaching from the west coast, and we are expecting it to produce quite a lot of rain, as we have already received the reports on the winds and the damages that are already starting to be shown. But today we are more worried about the winds, and tomorrow we're more worried about the amount of the rainfall that we'll receive. So learning from the previous experience, I think we are quite happy as South African Weather Service at the level of alertness and also the proactiveness from you, Premier, and your cabinet, as well as the Disaster Management Center. Stella, if you can just go down to please go down to the other slides. I'm not going to run through all the information. If you can go to the slides below. Okay, as you can see here, we have identified areas that are going to be affected, where we issued a level 6 warning. And those areas, I think they also need to be taken into consideration. But our biggest area is an area of level 9, if you can go down, Stella. The area of level 9, which covers the Overberg as well as the Wineland. I think that is the main area of concern, without maybe neglecting the other areas as well of level 6. I think we need to also take consideration that level 9, we are expecting quite a lot of disruptive rain, more especially tomorrow, hence the call that has been made of shutting down schools, and maybe other businesses might also be affected. We understand that this is not a small decision that is being taken, because it has got quite implications even on the economy of the province. So that is the level 9 areas that we are more worried about, the Overberg and the Cape Winelands, as the Premier has already indicated from the briefings that we have provided. I think all necessary actions are ready and need to be activated as and when it happens. But we are expecting the amount of rainfall to start falling maybe towards the early morning, and also the whole day tomorrow. Looks like we are expecting a rainy day tomorrow. If you can go to the summary slide, Stella. Okay, what we are seeing here, sorry, you can go up to the one that shows level 9. No, yes, okay. On this one, we can see that we have got the level 4 warning that has been issued on those areas, the West Coast, the Central Karoo, the Southern regions, the Namakwa, that is for today. And I think for tomorrow as well, we are expecting more around the Garden Route on level 4. When we look at the areas like the city of Cape Town, Swartland, Witzenberg, municipalities, tomorrow we are giving a level 6 warning. And also the area around Overberg and the Cape Winelands, which is the most area of concern, is a level 9. Whilst level 4 is also given again for Tuesday, understanding that as the system is going out, it's still the tail will still affect those areas that are highlighted there for level 4 on Tuesday. But the biggest day of worry is tomorrow, Monday, that we are more worried about. Stella, you can go down. Okay, so that's just a summary of what is already happening. I think the situation on the ground, we can experience it, we can already feel it, and there are reports that are coming through. The winds are quite strong and have already affected many areas, and we are expecting that for most of the day today, the areas might still be affected, but tomorrow we are expecting more rain, and knowing that the ground will be already saturated with the amount of rainfall that will already been received today. So I think, Premier, that's the summary I can provide from the South African Weather Service. I hope this helps for decision making. That is already, some decisions have already been taken, and we will continue to monitor the situation. Our team of forecasters and experts are continuing to monitor the situation. If there are any updates, we will still provide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right. Thank you very much to the Weather Services and to Disaster Management for the detail and feedback. I just want to summarize, and then we will deal with some questions. I think, first of all, the tough decision that was made earlier today in the disaster management space, as well as the cabinet space, and Minister Mania is here should there be any further questions. But number one, in the Overberg and Winelands district and the Helderberg Basin, which is part of the city of Cape Town, in those areas, Schools will be closed tomorrow. That decision has been taken, as hard as it is, because as the minister said, we'd like to keep our schools open and not closed. We haven't taken this decision lightly, but of course, we don't want parents taking their children to school hostels this afternoon. We don't want buses conveying children to our schools tomorrow with this high risk of lots of rain and potential floods on the back of the high winds that we've had today. And of course, from midnight tonight, we're expecting those rains. So I'll go again. Schools in those areas, Overberg, Cape Winelands, and the Helderberg, that's the Somerset West area, Helderberg Basin, schools will be closed. Private schools, the minister and his team are communicating with private schools at the moment. And the same thing, this is government schools where this decision has been taken, and it's the head of department who has the power and the ability to make this decision and close these schools. But we are communicating with private schools, and also obviously decisions like this in whether it's a university or higher education space, those decisions get made by those organizations as we move forward. One other thing from the Minister of Education is that other schools in other areas, for example, there was roof damage today in Mitchell's Plain, at schools in Mitchell's Plain. So those schools obviously would communicate directly to those learners in that specific case, or if there are any other individual schools outside of the area that have been mentioned, then they will be dealt with on an individual basis. That's the first thing. The second thing is obviously this is a warning across the board in this province, and each of the departments, whether they be tourism linked through to their communication systems, as we've used in the past, will be communicating. So if you're a tourist and you were planning on hiring a car and traveling through the Overberg tomorrow, the advice is please don't. The advice is stay in the accommodation that you're in at the moment. All of our emergency services are on standby across the province, and we will make sure that all communication channels are open. I want to say that the Western Cape Government website is open and available, so anybody who needs information post this can go directly to the website of the Western Cape Government. You will be directed, if you need to your own district team. We have a call center team on standby as well, 24/7. Those details are going to be on our website. I also want to put out a very strong message on conveying of fake news. Please, we must not send fake news at this time. If you cannot verify something, do not forward it on. That does not help anybody if we've got fake news circulating around the system. We need to make sure that emergency services are dealing with actual cases. So please, we must refrain. I'll give you an example. There was a video put out yesterday of a truck where high winds blew actually the trailer of a truck off just before they closed the Huguenot Tunnel. It was the trailer that went over the side of the bridge, not the truck. There were not a whole lot of deaths. That did not happen. The trailer went over, yes, but all the other information was fake news. And so we cannot keep distributing fake news. You must verify anything before you send it out. I also want to put one other warning out. Please, we have had devastating winds today, and especially when it's linked to fires. You have a lot of loose roof sheets and debris flying around. We already know that in Kayamandi, some roof sheets have been flying around. Roof sheets flying around in high wind is very dangerous. It can really hurt people. And so we need you to be safe and be careful. I also want to then say that we will keep ongoing with information on any other issues like road closures, etc. Our teams are out across this province. We'll be dealing with closing off roads to remove danger, but we are going to be expecting a fair amount of rain starting at midnight tonight, going through the day tomorrow. So please, if you're traveling, try and avoid passes, try and avoid bridges and crossings of areas that could be flooded. That is what we need to be doing tomorrow, but our officials will be out on the road making sure that we are protecting you wherever necessary. And I think you got the detail of the impact so far, and this is precaution. and we need to be safe out there. So that is my message, to say, please, you need to be safe. But I need to say, are there any questions? We'll quickly deal with questions. We have a couple of minutes left to do so.
I'll deal with this. The floor is now open for questions. I note 2 questions have already been posted in the chat box from News 24, so let's deal with them. This is to the panel, but I think perhaps the Weather Service and Colin, you might be best placed to handle this query. The question is, can we get any indication whether any possible tsunami warning has been issued with regards to the strong winds pulling the sea back in some coasts? And then a question posed to Minister Mania: how many schools in total have been damaged, and what are the damages? Let's deal with those 2 questions first, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Regan. No, so there's been no warnings. Tsunami is generally a seismic event, so we wouldn't get a warning. We do have storm surge warnings, and I think Weather Services might give more information. We do have, with the high winds around the coastline, the situation is that we could see quite high wind conditions leading to storm surges, and that's why we've done a lot of preparation work specifically in opening estuaries. So there wouldn't be anything as major as a tsunami in that kind of regard. Thank you.
Thank you. We are sort of receiving regular reports from the department. I'm aware of about 5 cases which have been reported up until now. The major issue is significant damage to roofing. The department, of course, are attending to those cases. Our emergency infrastructure teams are already in the field and on standby to deal with these cases. We will, of course, on an ongoing basis over the next 24 or 48 hours, provide regular updates on the number of schools that have experienced infrastructure damage, the kind of infrastructure damage that they have experienced, and what we are doing to mitigate that risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Minister. 2 more questions. One, speaking to the recent shack fires we've seen. We saw them, I think the worst of them was in Kayamande, but also in KTC. The question goes, several people still need shelter. Any plans to find accommodation for victims of the fire? As tomorrow is, of course, a critical day due to the inclement weather heading our way. So perhaps, Colin, you could deal with that, but maybe, Premier, you might have something to add as to what capacity we have as the provincial government for any kind of resources or accommodation.
Under the emergency housing grant with the National Department, so we worked with the National Department settlements because that grant has been transferred to as a national function, and we work together with them to do that. So there are plans in place to be able to deal with that. There is a bit of a process that needs to be followed. Those processes are in place. Obviously, after the incidents that we had over the weekend, that will be added to whatever is still required. We haven't received the request yet in terms of investigations on these incidents, but I think that will possibly take place within the week, following also what could prevail in the next day or 2.
So I'll just add to that obviously at local government level, school halls are being made available so that people can get accommodation. Obviously, when you lose your roof in a high wind scenario, that's one thing, but when you add rain to it as well, and those citizens are being helped into those spaces at local government level. Also, as you said, gift of the givers on the ground. We've been in contact with our social development department, making sure that we are mitigating that risk wherever it is arising.
Thank you. 2 more questions. A question here: will Cape Town International Airport be closed? And a follow-up, can you confirm if any creches will also be closed?
Okay, so I know that we did speak with Minister Wenger as well as Minister McKenzie on mobility and and on from Minister Wenger's side, tourism. They are in contact with the airport. The planes are operating as usual at the moment, so there is no issue now. And of course, remember the level 9 warning is not in the space where the airport is. So far that seems to be okay.
Minister Krishnas.
Thank you. We have obviously announced that we are closing all public ordinary schools in the affected areas. Past practice has shown that independent and private schools have followed our lead, but we will be in contact not only with independent schools and independent school associations, but also with NPOs operating creches throughout the affected areas, so that we can ensure that those institutions are also closed, so that we can safeguard all the children in the affected areas.
Thank you, Minister. A question from Melakaya. You've got your hand up. Over to you.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. I just need a little bit of a detail in terms of the fire kits, because this has been a kind of a problem. Because what happens is that when you speak to the national government, they say the national government, they are not, managing the funds that are being given to provinces or to municipalities. So it's the municipality or the province that decides on how they are going to use the grant, because previously the fire kits were being given to the victims of fire, and it's been like, now the national says, no, this is the responsibility of the province or the local municipality, because the housing grant is being given to municipalities and the national. And then when you speak to the province or the national, they will say, no, the grant has been transferred to the national. So I think we really need a little bit of a detail in that, because the people on the ground are really suffering. There are a lot of people, that are left stranded, without any fire kits. Can we please get a little bit of a detail on what's really happening with the fire kits incident? Program.
Yeah, so I think the situation is that the emergency housing grant is now being administered by National Department of Human Settlements completely. This decision was made sometime in last year, and they are responsible for providing that. Those provision used to be done by the municipalities. It was not done by province. And then that funding, so what would generally happen is National would send a team like they did last year with the floods. They would go and do an assessment, and then they would provide that resource. So that is the current situation as it stands, and that's the situation that we work with at this stage. Thank you.
Just one more to the Premier. Premier, maybe a little bit out of what we are about today, but seemingly that NERSA has approved the stage 16, by ESCOM. In actually, as you have already seen how the winter will be, it has already shown the weather that we are in today and the coming days. What kind of plans does the Western Cape have in order to actually try and and actually maybe try to make the situation not to be too severe to businesses and the residents of the Western Cape, if it happens that stage 16 gets to be put into effect by ESCOM?
So if I can, I'm just going to give you a very high level answer on that. Obviously we have our backup plans for whichever stage of load shedding we get into. So, for example, mitigation of risk up to level 4 in hospitals or level 6 in hospitals to keep the power on into those spaces. And obviously, we are continuing with our plan on the rollout of mitigating levels of load shedding. Obviously, now what's happened is just divided into a whole lot more risk levels. So instead of going up to level 6 or 7, now it's expanded even further. And that is because we are going into our winter where the risk goes up again. But obviously for the current situation, Eskom was part of the discussion earlier. And for us right now, it's about saying, especially in these areas, we then ask that we relieve pressure of load shedding on areas that are going to be affected now by severe storms, because we need to keep services running wherever we can if there's a disruption in service. So from a current position, Eskom is involved in our discussions, obviously from a mitigation and our emergency plan. Of course, those plans are in place. They have been in place since 2015, but our teams will now also reflect on the NERSA decision and then say, what do we need to adjust? But as far as I'm concerned, those mitigating risks just or the systems that we have in place still remain the same, and we will continue with our own processes in the province of mitigating that risk level by level as is possible. Obviously, there's no quick fix in or with our energy system. It's going to take years to get the real system sorted out. And as you say, our next period of risk is winter, and we've got to make sure that we mitigate risk wherever possible as we're moving forward.
Thank you.
Premier, thank you, Medakai. We've got time just for one more question from Dimasi, Stellenbosch University's local newspaper. What is the likelihood of universities being closed? Do they discuss certain matters with your department and by extension with the provincial government first before making such a decision? I'm not aware personally, Premier, of anything along those lines.
Yeah, so personally myself, we haven't had that discussion, although we've been in meetings up until now. Obviously, we would want everybody to be taking what's come out of the disaster management system. It goes through to the districts. Those municipalities communicate through their normal systems. And so whether it's a university or whether it's an old age home, they will all make their own decisions based on the risk warnings that have been put out. But I don't know, Colin, if there's any further discussion that comes from disaster management or even those districts that would then proactively go into a university or somebody that's perhaps not covered by our existing system.
Premier, so what we do is looking at the risk. So we do have quite a lot of technology here where we would take the weather warning as we receive it, and then we would process it and see which areas are at risk. So that could be whatever structure, be it an old age home, be it a university, etc. We will identify that then as an isolated risk in that area, and then together with the district, we'll make a decision. So we've made a number of decisions in the past to evacuate places, and we do it on the grounds of the technology that we have. So it's a good scientific model that tells us this is the area that will be flooded. It's based on the water, on the amount of water we're going to see if rivers get released, etc. And then we will make the call. And then through the district together, normally with law enforcement, we would go in and evacuate specific areas. But evacuating must be done, very accurate. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings to a close the question and answer session of this media briefing. Just to remind you that we will give you regular updates through our website, the Western Cape Government website, as well, and various WhatsApp groups as well, namely as it pertains to us in the Office of the Premier, the Premier's media group, as it goes along. Of course, we'll also be issuing a statement post this briefing, just giving you the latest information. But I'll just hand over to the Premier and we can wrap up this briefing. Thank you, Premier.
So again, thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone that's in our disaster team, in our government teams, in all departments. Just to reiterate, schools closed tomorrow being Monday. School closed in the Overberg, Winelands and the Helderberg Basin area, and other schools would be dealt with directly from the department's point of view, that there is going to be high rainfall predicted level 9 warning level, that is in the Winelands and the Overberg region. Of course, much of the province also in level 4 and 6. So everybody across this province, please be safe out there. We've had high winds from yesterday afternoon coming through into today. And of course, that's going to have rain added to it from later this afternoon, this evening, and probably from midnight onwards into tomorrow. We need people to consider if they are traveling, rather, if possible, mitigate any long distance travel across some of the level 9 areas. Make sure that you steer clear of passes as well as bridges and high risk areas in those specific districts. I want to make sure that if anybody needs any further information, please go via the website or your local municipalities' emergency websites. But the Western Cape Government website should have all of those linkages as well as any update on communication. Please be safe out there. Please make sure that we all are helping each other. Be kind to each other. We can all do this if we all work together. Thank you very much.